Hi there, my name is Kevin Allen and my company is called Stream Cars. I'm a used car dealer and I've been dealing in Aston Martins now for nearly 20 years. So this video is intended to be helpful for those out there looking for their first Aston Martin, and it's going to be predominantly about buying DB9s from '04 onwards and the Aston Martin Vantage from '06 onwards. So we'll start under the bonnet, shall we? Or for our American friends, under the hood. The release latch is in the footwell on the near side. And the bonnet opens in the middle and is held open by two gas struts. We're now under the bonnet, and in this case this is a DB9 with the 6-litre engine, so it's a car registered in late 2007. The first thing we see is the inspection plaque, and what I look for is any of these screws here that may have been undone or removed. I look for really clean lines and no damage or cracks. Often the front grille as well, they have this grille called a bright finish grille, can go very milky. There isn't a lot to look for on these engines. When they're running, you just need to listen for any tapping or rattling or belt squeaking, but fundamentally they're very robust, and the biggest expense, barring any sort of failure, will be the coil packs. While we've got the bonnet open, let's look at the headlights. So the lights on an Aston Martin can get quite misty and have condensation in them. This example here is in perfect condition, but that is another thing to look for, as you would looking all around the front end for any gravel rash, stone chipping, and because they're quite low down, any kind of scrapes along the front of the spoiler. A common problem with Aston Martins is corrosion in the paintwork, particularly around these side strakes on the side of the car, around the side repeater lenses, also on the wing mirror arms and mirrors themselves, and also on the edges of areas like this, on the corners of the bonnet, on the front lip of the bonnet, on the wiper blade arms. Look along the door edges, particularly at the joins, around the key lock and the handle. All are areas that I've seen corrosion on many vehicles over the years. This one, you can see, an exceptionally clean example. Now let's talk about the rear end. The car came with red lights, but a lot of owners upgraded them or have retrofitted these clear rear lenses. They're much smarter, I think, but another common problem is that they do fill up with water and have a lot of condensation. Again, this example has none, but you should be looking at that because a unit to replace is somewhere in the region of £800. They can be removed and dried out in an airing cupboard if you have the ability to do so yourself, and it's not a difficult job. But if you have to factor in for really poor condensation, then that can be quite costly. While we're looking at the back end, look down under the rear bumper and the valance, because corrosion occurs along the back end of the car down here, and particularly on the parking sensors. Now let's talk about wheels and tyres. This example is fitted with the Sports Pack alloy wheel, and it's shod with Michelin Pilot Sport tyres. The standard fitment from Aston Martin was a Bridgestone tyre, but that is becoming increasingly unavailable and people are switching to the Michelins or Pirellis Dunlops perhaps. Anything branded is excellent. Stay away from any car that has cheap tyres on it. Look also at the centre caps. This one, again, unmarked. They can cost you £100 for a set of centre caps. Check also for discs and pad wear, because that is probably one of the bigger ticket items that you will have to spend when doing routine maintenance. A slight weak point, and sometimes I've seen these gas struts get changed on the boot lid. So look for a boot lid that stays open easily, and look for corrosion inside here, although it is less of an issue. Any car that comes with its umbrella, or even better, a genuine Aston Martin car cover, you can tell has been a cared for example. A lot of the cars get left on trickle charge, and the trickle charge point is in the recess there with the flap down. Let's take you onto the interior of the car. So the door opens by pushing on this part of the handle and opens like so. The first area I look at is this door hinge here, which often is very marked and rusty. This one is a nice clean example. I look at the sill plates as well. They're always in this odd sort of anodized lilac colour, which I've never really understood. Look for any scratching or scuffing on there. That shows how well a person is cared for when they've entered or exited the vehicle. The leather in these cars is extremely soft and often marks on here and on the handle. I've seen scratches all across this panel here, and often chips out of here as well. That's of course only cosmetic, but it gives you an indication of how well the car has been treated. The leather should not be baggy. The bolster should be clean. And in this example, it has a button that you push to release the seat and allow anything small enough to enter the back of the car. This is the area in which the battery is stored under this seat, and there's a separate video on that, on how to access it and change it, and it's a bit of a mission. So look around the car, look for any scratches in the leather and how clean it is. Also, the leather does peel away sometimes around the edges, so look for that. And also on the dashboard panel, if a car has been left in the sun, the leather will shrink and it lifts up on the corners of the panels there. This centre stack is commonly referred to as the waterfall. I prefer the cars that come with this piano black finish, but they're often fitted with wood and I don't find them as attractive. Look out for any cracks here and here, and if the car is fitted with satellite navigation, which frankly is rather useless, it's an old Volvo unit, but it's a desirable thing to have, it should raise up and down when pushing this button here. If it doesn't, then you'll need new cogs. You can see the condition of this car is exceptional. There are some rather garish colours out there on the market. I tend to stay away from the iron ore, which is a kind of oxblood colour, and any of the walnut type trims. The classic ones, like this obsidian black, are the ones that are most desirable and easy to sell. The Taylor's grey headlining in Alcantara, also look for that for any sagging. The first time I bought an Aston Martin and took it to a petrol station to fill it up was very embarrassing, because I couldn't find the petrol flap release. So let me tell you where that is. It's just tucked down here underneath the dashboard, and you push the button and the petrol flap opens. There is actually an emergency release if that button doesn't work, and that's in the boot here, in this area there. Can you just see that at the end of the lens? Depending on the year of the car, will depend on whether you have a key in a conventional ignition there, or from 08 onwards they changed the ignition to be in place of the start button, and you insert the key in there. Those keys are usually plastic, and you get one glass key, which is very easy to break because the spring inside the ignition sometimes throws the key back out, and it hits the dash here, breaks the key or chips the key, and also damages the dash. So look out for that. This is an 07 model, so it comes with a conventional key. In fact, this car has 3 of them and 2 fobs. The key goes into the ignition there, and then when you turn the ignition on, you see it light up with power, beauty and soul, does its system check, and then the lights that remain on until we start the car by pushing the start button there. There we are, we've got that lovely sonorous V12 engine. This car has covered 49,745 miles. Now, there is very little to go wrong, but annual servicing is important on these. A lot of cars actually don't do many miles every year because people use them infrequently sometimes, but it's important. I think it's acceptable that a car might skip a year on servicing if it hasn't driven many miles, but certainly biannual at the very least is what I look for, and I like to see a main dealer or a specialist stamp. When it comes to checking the controls, check the radio. In fact, I can remember an occasion where I bought an Aston Martin Vanquish, and Aston Martin in their wisdom had condensed all the electrical components in with the audio into a box called the Pectron unit, which sat somewhere underneath the back seat there. That had failed, the stereo didn't work, and the cost to replace that, a rather eye-watering £7,000. That was a very uncommon problem though, not something I've encountered before or since. But always check the fans, make sure that the fans are working, obviously that it has the air conditioning blowing hot or cold, and the directions to make sure the vents aren't blocked. Go through all your checks of each of the buttons. Everything should be in good working order. It's not uncommon to have electrical issues with these cars when they're used infrequently. They do like to be driven. So cars that have stood should be driven and checked for electrical gremlins, but a lot of them will be ironed out simply by driving the car. And if that doesn't help, then a new battery will almost certainly suffice. This is the DB9 V12, so it's an automatic, a proper automatic, unlike the sport shift cars that are essentially a clutchless manual. But if you're looking at, for example, a Vantage that has a clutch, the clutches, despite what anyone says, are not like chocolate. They can go 70,000 miles on a single clutch, but equally you could destroy one in 5,000 miles if you drive it like a hooligan. Apart from the obvious signs of clutch slip or a very heavy pedal, then there is really no way of telling whether a clutch is on its way out. I hope you find that helpful. I've probably forgotten something and the list is not exhaustive, but it gives you an indication of the things to look for. A lot of it is online as well and in books. If you did find it helpful, I really appreciate you give me a little like somewhere down there. There's a thumbs up if you can just push that button. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate that. You'll get to see the cars that come to the channel for sale, and you'll obviously be first to see them because you'll be a subscriber. that gets notified when I drop a new video. So appreciate you watching. Thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed.